Jim Foley, journalist and photographer. In Aleppo shortly before he was kidnapped in 2012 and held by Islamic State militants. It wasn't the first time. He'd been taken by Gaddafi's forces in Libya the previous year and reflected on the experience.
You don't want to be defined as that guy who got captured in 2011, and I believe that frontline journalism is important, without these photos and videos and first-hand experience, we can't really tell the world how bad it might be.
Jim Foley wanted to expose the suffering of others, but ended up suffering himself. We will only show a small part of the video his killers put out. It was a message to America, they said.
The United States would be prepared to take targeted military action in Iraq.
And showed President Obama on August the 7th, announcing the bombing campaign against the Islamic Front in Iraq. Foley is dressed in orange like a Guantanamo Bay prisoner.
American citizen of your country.
His apparent killer speaks with what sounds like a British accent and threatens another kidnapped American reporter, Steven Sotloff, if the bombing doesn't stop. This morning, Jim Foley's mother, Diane, hugged friends outside their home in New Hampshire. After nearly 2 years of dreading the worst, his parents now know it.
It haunts me that how much pain he was in and how cruel this method of execution is as opposed to so many others. So it testifies to his courage. He was courageous to the end.
President Obama was grim-faced, speaking with controlled anger, but announcing no change in policy. The bombing of ISIL, as he calls it, will continue.
Now, Jim Foley's life stands in stark contrast to his killers. Let's be clear about ISIL. So ISIL speaks for no religion. Their victims are overwhelmingly Muslim, and no faith teaches people to massacre innocents. No just God would stand for what they did yesterday and what they do every single day.
The Prime Minister returned early from his holiday, his aim of keeping British soldiers out of the renewed war in Iraq looking more difficult by the day. Islamic State militants have been seizing more territory in Syria even as they fight in Iraq. They're believed to be holding about 20 journalists, some Western, most Arabs, around their stronghold of Raqqa. In recent weeks, at least 2 Sunni tribes in eastern Syria have rebelled against the harsh rule. Several hundred men have been beheaded in punishment. Local people have long been terrorized. Now the world has understood the cruelty and horror of the Islamic State. Jim Foley had a life of adventure and passion. His death presents a terrible dilemma for the British and American governments, trying to hold back the tide of extremism and brutality.